Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maria. If you watch this video and you enjoy it, don't be shy, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for any future videos on narcissistic abuse, and narcissistic abuse recovery. Today we are going to be getting into the topic of social anxiety. Social anxiety is something that affects 15 million people today. So this must be something that we really need to work on. So first we're going to take a look at C-PTSD, which I mentioned in another video. So C-PTSD is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So this is something that can come from prolonged narcissistic abuse. Now, there are 5 different categories of C-PTSD. So the first category is toxic shame. I did make a video on toxic shame, so if you want to check that out and learn more about that, go ahead and do that. Number 2 is self-abandonment. Sometimes whenever we're younger, we felt abandoned by our loved ones, our family, our caretakers. As we become adults, we actually abandon ourselves because that is what we know. So that's number 2, self-abandonment. Number 3 is emotional flashbacks. I also made a video on emotional flashbacks, so I'll go ahead and put that in the description below. Number 4, and excuse me if I look down, I'm going to be looking at my notes. Vicious inner critic. So if you do have C-PTSD, or you have dealt with narcissistic abuse in the past, you understand what the inner critic is that you have, and this can be harsh. Telling yourself just harsh, mean things during the day, every day, compulsive thoughts, ruminating thoughts. So this is number 4, vicious inner critic. And number 5, finally, is going to be social anxiety. So we're going to dig into social anxiety today. First, I want to just let you know in general what anxiety is. And anxiety is just what you think it would be. It's a feeling of being uneasy, a feeling of nervousness. Anxiety is something that can affect your entire world. It causes a lot of worry, a lot of discomfort. It can affect your relationships. So we know what anxiety is. Social anxiety. A lot of people can say, oh, I'm really shy. And then someone else says, oh, well, I have social anxiety. The difference between these two things is being shy is something that eventually once you meet people and you get over it, you can actually have conversations and friendships with those people that maybe at first you were shy to talk to. So that's shyness. Social anxiety is something that comes along with anxiety. I mean, it comes along with a lot of behavioral, cognitive, components, and these are things that affect your body, your mind, your relationships. It's definitely something you want to dig into. So there are going to be 3 different components of anxiety, and these link up to social anxiety. So you'll see how these things work. Number 1, physiological component of anxiety. So that is going to be how anxiety actually shows up and feels in our body. This is something that people notice because maybe you had a panic attack during a social outing, or maybe at work, or in a meeting, or before a speech in front of a lot of people. So social anxiety attacks are things that people can see. Something else that people could see: sweaty palms. Maybe you feel your heart rate increase. Your heart starts beating faster in social situations. You feel sick to your stomach. You may feel lightheaded. So these are physiological components of anxiety. And you can see how these things tend to show up in social situations when we are dealing with social anxiety. And these are the things that we actually feel in our body. Some of these things we can see, like a panic attack. Some of these things are things that we are feeling internally. But they're showing up in these social situations, which is really hard to get past and can be really embarrassing. So number 2 component of anxiety is going to be the cognitive component. And as you may know, a cognitive component would be something that happens in your thought process or in your mind. So anxious thoughts, a fear of being judged, a fear of people not liking you. It could be compulsive thoughts, over analyzing, obsessed over how you look. A lot of times, people with the cognitive component rehearse, conversations in their head before the conversations even happen, so that they're able to break it down and have a plan ready ahead of time. And this is also goes along with if you're somebody that checks the time of things a million times, checks the date a million times, and just wants to make sure that everything is going to be okay, and you are super prepared for this social event or this work meeting, this morning meeting at work that's in front of a lot of people, that you don't want to raise your hand, you don't want to participate, you don't want to give your information because of these cognitive and these physiological components that come along with anxiety and social anxiety, which can be very disturbing and interrupting to your life, whether it be a personal or work life. Number 3 component of anxiety is going to be the behavioral component. So the behavioral component is something that goes along the line with avoiding situations that cause anxiety. So it's avoidance. So you avoid phone calls because you're scared that when you get on the call, you're going to be judged. You automatically think you're going to be judged. So you may prefer to text instead, because it gives you that time to think ahead. What do I want to say? How do I want to prepare my thoughts for this conversation? Avoiding social engagements, parties, avoiding interactive group meetings, and avoiding confrontation. So these are all the behavioral components of anxiety and social anxiety. All right. So I always like to make sure that I leave you with something about healing or what we can do to help ourselves with social anxiety. So the first thing I am going to suggest is that you slowly expose yourself to the situations that give you anxiety. This is not something, I'm not saying go out and do it right off the bat. Go out and go to this party with 100 people right off the bat. No, I'm talking about visualization. You may also want to practice this with a therapist or a counselor. It is smart to always have a counselor, a therapist, a life coach, somebody that's going to be there to assist you through all of these things, hold you accountable, but not just that, be able to give you emotional literacy, understand exactly what it is that's happening with you. So visualizing what it feels like, you get a very particular social engagement. Think of that. Close your eyes. Think of how you would act in that situation, and then take another route and think how you may act this way in that situation. Think about, what did you feel more comfortable with? What were you nervous about? At what point did your palms start sweating? At what point did you feel this in your body? At what point did you feel this in your mind? And really see what is in your window of tolerance. What can you tolerate in social environments when we're starting out with the healing process, and what is totally out of your window of tolerance and you absolutely cannot deal with that at this time. These are things you don't necessarily want to jump into at first, because we want you to succeed. We want to succeed at overcoming social anxiety. So that's the first thing you would do, is visualize. Number 2, role play. Like I said, role play with a counselor a therapist or a life coach, or maybe it's just a really, really good friend or a roommate, somebody that's going to give you the time of day to do this. So role playing and really practicing, this is just like, you know, I mean, it's kind of like a sport. You're a little kid and you're learning how to play ball. This is something that you're going to first think like, what do I need? How do I see myself as a player? And then you practice, and practice makes perfect. It's something we need to do. It also helps in these situations with facing our fears, right? Seeing what the fears actually look like. We know what they feel like, but we want to see what it is that we are so frightened by. And number 3, try it out. So you can visualize and practice as much as you want, but taking that leap, that next step to actually try this out, it might be easier on a phone call. You actually might want to make the phone call to somebody. Just take everything that you have learned so far and have that phone call. Be okay with imperfection, because it's not going to be perfect, okay? But just try to get through it. And if you can get through it, good for you. You just made a step in the right direction. So you're gonna go ahead and try these things out. All right, guys, I hope this helped you even just a little bit. If you have any more questions about social anxiety, or you have any advice for someone else, please don't be shy. Write it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for any future videos on narcissistic abuse, narcissistic abuse recovery, and as always, I wish you all the love in the world.